So first thing, thank you all very much for coming on a Wednesday afternoon when I'm sure there's lots of other fantastic, thrilling things you'd be doing with the sun shining. But instead, like the last few months, you decided to stay indoors, listen to me. So hopefully I don't bore you too much. Well, enough on that. Hopefully I won't. So just to get started, I'm going to briefly go over what is resolve and also what is reconciliation for development. And then we'll be followed by mentioned an interactive session, which really gives everyone an opportunity both to tell us what they want us to do in the future and also influence the way the projects and the destinations are decided. And hopefully you won't mind getting involved in that. But in the meantime, I'll introduce the projects and just give you a bit of background information. So I'll begin. So first thing, what is reconciliation for development? It's a new term, but also quite familiar if anyone's working in international development work. It's very similar to other programs, for example, Sport for Development. In this instance, though, it's embedding learning into conflict resolution activities. So, for example, a participant will be on a program, and not only will they learn how to, say, be a reconciliation and peace builder, but they'll also learn a variety of different other skills, which can make a big difference both to their communities, particularly those affected by conflict. But also, the project's not just about making a difference on a peace building or conflict issue. It's also about developing their own personal skill set and also, their careers. So, for example, our projects, this is just to give you an idea of some of the skills a participant might learn when they're involved in our projects. Anything from leadership to effective communication, particularly when it comes to resolving a conflict, to project designing and project management, as well as, like, for example, financial management. But this just gives you an idea. This is not restrictive. People learn an awful lot of other things during their experiences, but it just gives you an idea of what we mean by reconciliation for development. And why do we do this? Well, first thing, we want to build cohesion in communities. We also want to develop young people as community leaders who carry out their own social action in their communities, while also ultimately addressing social intolerance in our communities. So ultimately, reconciliation for development is very much linked to this idea of youth-led social action, which I'll talk a bit more about later. But what is actually Resolve? So Resolve is our own project. This is any of our Resolve projects which involves reconciliation for development are all under the Resolve banner. Pardon me. So a Resolve learning program, the ultimate objective is to promote youth-led community-based reconciliation strategies for Europe and also its neighbours. And the actual idea came about from looking at how can we effectively address conflict, build reconciliation, while also developing peace-building techniques to address, as I mentioned, social intolerance, xenophobia, and racism, which, again, more and more we find is returning in our societies, and in some countries have never left. But our model, and this is where reconciliation for development comes in, also embeds things like employability skills, life skills, youth development. We also work on women economic empowerment now, and also promoting social inclusion. We see very much reconciliation and peace building not just about building, addressing conflicts, but also looking at the social economic reasons for conflicts. For example, community poverty is a massive reason why conflicts continue. So we try to address that in our programs. Just some nice snazzy pictures from the last 2 years or so. Apologies for anyone who can see their faces. Now, in relation to what we actually do and how we do that, I'm just going to just briefly talk about the learning methods. So there's many ways to build reconciliation or peace building, and we're trying to do a variety of different ways. And often people in our networks and our facilitators who work with us will have their own particular type they specialize in. So for example, a big area is like interfaith and people dialogue. Sport for peace and also sport for development are tools we use quite a lot in London. Whereas when we do projects in, say, Georgia with our partners there, we use much more creative methods and simulation games. But the vast majority of our projects will have a smattering of all these different types of projects. And we've ultimately focuses on social action and volunteering at the end of it. And we do this through youth exchanges and trainings, so often transnationally, not just in one country, but multiple. Dialogue activities, both locally and as well internationally. Intercultural engagement activities, digital learning, more and more, as it seems for everyone these days, and also through volunteering placements. So for example, as well as the European Solidarity Corps, we also offer our own volunteering programs. Last year we did a 3-month internship for more than 5 young people in the summer. And as well as for our, we were trying to anyway, experiment with volunteers from previous projects during our 2020 youth exchanges. But we've been kind of held up beyond our activities, which happen in February and kind of also March. But we hope very soon we can offer more and more volunteering activities on our programs. I mentioned about social action. So every participant who is involved in one of our programs have to then go back to their community and in some shape or form carry out social action. So just to clarify, in case you don't know what I mean by social action, and you can see it on the screen here, it's when young people coming together to tackle a particular issue in order to support people in their community and make improvements. Now, this can be done via a variety of different things, whether it be sharing resources, running a project, or participating in volunteering. So as I mentioned, everyone who's involved in our project, each country and each partner has to ensure their group of young people get involved in social action in some shape or form. So this could be as a group and they could do a project together, or they're more who'd like to do something individually, they could volunteer, whether with Asfar or with the local partner or with a third-party organisation. It's really, we try to encourage them to decide what they want to do themselves, rather than us say, tell them what to do. Because then, again, it's developing those skill sets we mentioned earlier. And here, for example, is one example of social action from last year. In December 2019, over 30 young people from the UK, Cyprus, Georgia and Sweden went to Nicosia, where they supported our partner, their Peace Players, winter tournament, which was for children from the Greek and also Turkish side of the island to come together and play basketball. And so the participants on our Resolve projects were there volunteering, providing information, and basically just cheering on the group to try and make it a really good and interactive tournament. Whereas another example of social action is these digital talks themselves. So I'm sure Luke might have mentioned previously in different digital talks that he's a European Solidarity Corps volunteer. And within the project, there was very much clear what he was supposed to do. Unfortunately, that involved an awful lot of youth exchanges, which of course, none of us have been able to do youth exchanges abroad at the moment. So instead, he came up with this digital talks idea as a social action project, and we very much hope it will continue. So social action can be very individual and also very personal. It doesn't have to be based on what other organisations are saying. It can be whatever the young person might want to do on our projects. So just let me catch my breath for one moment. Apologies, I'm talking too fast. So in relation to Resolve to date, what I've been doing, well, of course, the last couple of months, we haven't done that much beyond what we've been able to do online. But before then, between 2018 and 2019, we ran 4 Resolve projects, all youth exchanges. So that involved, I believe it was, 14 youth exchanges involving, tell you exactly, more than 400 young people. And we did these youth exchanges in 12 different countries last year. and all of them involved connecting young people to a network, which I'll talk about in a minute, and carrying out social action projects. There's some happy faces, I think, looks like Israel. Now, in relation to 2020 and next year, we are currently trying really hard to deliver 4 Resolve projects. One is a youth exchange, Resolve West, and I can see at least one partner from Morocco. And I think with Nerman, who introduced himself earlier, he's also involved in that project. And that involves activities in Morocco, Azerbaijan, which unfortunately got cancelled midway through, London, which took place in February, and hopefully at some point in Sarajevo. Whereas we have also another project called Resolve New Youth Order, which is a dialogue project. And that's our first dialogue project using the Resolve model. And that the objective is to connect our young people we've worked with in the last 18 months, 24 months or so with decision makers. And I know 1 or 2 of you might have had participated in the online digital activity in May. And we'll also be running another digital activity to promote dialogue in August. So you're very welcome to attend if you're free. On top of that, we have 2 European Solidarity Corps projects. One is Resolve Social Action, which is a youth initiative. So that involves, again, doing Resolve training sessions, primarily youth-led where possible, and then young people designing their own projects and doing their own social action. And I think we've got at least, I don't recognize one name amongst us today who I think is going to be doing a social action project through that program. And on top of that, we also have Resolve Volunteer for Peace, which Luke is a European Solidarity Corps volunteer, and I think it was Jade who mentioned she'd also be coming in September. Fingers crossed if everything looks good. So that's where we are and what we're trying to do. And we have decided that even if we can't deliver them in 2020, we'll make every effort to try and do them in early 2021, and depending on how partners are. On top of that, oh, pardon me, I'm just pushing ahead. So those projects I just mentioned, they're going to currently offer more than 200 opportunities for young people. I won't reiterate what I just said about those different projects, but you get an idea. But as I was just about to say, on top of that, we've recently received the news that 2 of our other projects have also been accepted. So although 2020 is going to be a slow year for us, we very much hope when things calm down on the coronavirus front, in 2020 we'll also be delivering more Resolve projects. So for example, we have Resolve Peace Camps, which will involve both local activities in the UK, but also international activities involving young people both from the UK, Georgia, Cyprus, Spain, Turkey, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Hungary. And at the end of that project, there will be the first ever Resolve Peace Conference. Now, we very much hope we can invite more young people beyond those groups, those national groups, which we'll definitely be promoting if and when we know we can, to come to that conference. And also we have 1 youth exchange, the Resolve Reconciliation for Gender Equity, difficult for me to say, program, which involves 2 youth exchanges, one in London and one in Tbilisi, involving the United Kingdom, Georgia, Turkey and Italy. At the moment, of course, we can't tell you anything about those projects beyond that we've been offered a grant. But hopefully by late 2020, we can send out more information. And of course, most of you probably know Luke and Amina now, and you can always contact them if you have any questions about those projects. Right, the Resolve Network. Apologies if I'm talking really fast and you're struggling with my accent. It's a bit northern, and some people do struggle, so apologies if I've lost a few of you. But a big part of the Resolve programme is the element of the network. There's 2 parts of the network. The first part, which is the partnership network, was launched in December 2017. And that involves all the different organisations in all the different countries, which we hope is growing and growing every year. And the second part is the youth wing. So during the first Resolve Youth Exchange ever in Sarajevo, the network for the youth wing was launched. The objectives of the Resolve network, which I'll briefly go into, main aim is to connect both young people, reconciliation, youth and community professionals, NGOs, other stakeholders and academics together to talk about, well, how we can address social intolerance and develop skills for young people in particular when it comes to doing their social action. These very briefly are the core objectives, which we try and change regularly. And we'd love some input, perhaps after this call or maybe in another activity in the future. But the main one from our perspective is to develop young people as peace builders. Because at the moment, social intolerance, racism, xenophobia, it's raised its ugly head again. And we don't think it's going to go away anytime soon unless we're all actively addressing it, every member of society. And I think young people, this generation particularly, has a massive role in doing that. And we hope that very much you'll come on the journey with us. Other objectives are, of course, developing reconciliation tools, making them more robust, stronger, and more successful. Delivering programs like this being another objective. And also developing reconciliation professional skills and youth worker skills so they can deliver these projects as well. So it's just not one organisation, it's many organisations delivering reconciliation for development in communities. On top of that, strategic partnerships, again, developing the materials and trying to persuade decision makers about the need for this sort of thing. So this is currently where we have members of the youth wing. So that's 13 countries at the moment. And in 2021, it's going to extend to 15. And we're very keen to expand it further. So even if we're not doing a Resolve project in your country, and you're interested in being involved, just get in touch because we're keen to expand it and beyond the current boundaries. And just very briefly, these are the youth wing objectives. Again, number one is the same as number one in the main objectives. Number two is on social action, promoting it more in communities. And number three is running more transnational and intercultural learning opportunities for young people. On this front, again, we want more and more young people telling us what your objectives should be. So if you are involved in the project during a network meeting, this will be a question which will come up quite regularly to make sure that the Resolve network is always doing what you members would like us to do. In relation to the Resolve network, of course, it's an international level network, but it's also country level. And the objectives, as well as what I've already mentioned, is also to promote the social action. Big, very important thing. But also offering a platform for people, peers, to share ideas. So one young person maybe in Georgia can share an idea with another young person in the UK about this particular project. Whether they're running it locally or want to do it internationally. Again, providing advice to each other and also sharing opportunities, which again might develop both their skills, but also offer some support in relation to other activities they might want to do. At the moment, the Resolve network meetings have been going on during youth exchanges and dialogue activities. We're starting to do them on digital meetings. So I think the first one was held in May. And also, depending on who you are, we also occasionally local meetings. I know in Bosnia-Herzegovina, last year in particular, there was a number of local Resolve network meetings, which we really would hope to carry on. And of course, like I mentioned, from next year, there will be the first youth conference. Now, I briefly mentioned about this. We want to extend our network. And in order to do that, we do need to identify country representatives. So if you're interested in being more involved, even if we currently aren't running a project in your country, that doesn't mean you can't participate, because we do offer sometimes funded places for other nationals. But the benefits of being a country representative, of course, is to attend network meetings in different countries when we can, influence the network, so that it can benefit both your community and other communities, and also develop your own personal and professional skill sets. So that was only a very brief introduction about the country representatives, but we're going to be starting an autumn recruitment. So if you're interested, keep your eyes open on our Facebook page. But also, if you would like to express an interest before then, just drop us a CV at our resolve@asfar.org.uk email.
If you have any questions on things that came up today or things that you've already been recommended to get in touch with, you can get in touch with Emina. I don't know whether Emina wants to put the email in the chat. I think it's the resolve, or I can put the resolve@asfar.org.uk, I guess would be the one to use. Yep, Emina has put it there. So if you have any questions or any follow-ups or any thoughts or anything, get in touch with us there. We will be back in 2 weeks with hopefully another digital talk. In the meantime, thank you very much everyone for coming. We're making all our talks available on our YouTube channel, which we will share. And yes, I'm sure we will speak with, have events with, talks with, and so forth, all of you in the coming weeks. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your days, your evenings, your weeks. Yeah, thank you again.